Hey everyone, my name's Matt and I've been working on Fiverr since 2011 as a design and SEO expert. I've been a top rated seller and I've worked with over 700 different buyers on Fiverr, and I've learned an incredible amount of tips and tricks as well as working with all sorts of buyers from all over the world. I've managed to earn just around $10,000 on Fiverr so far, and that's growing every single day. And I've put this class together to share all of my tips and tricks with you to help you create your very first gig on Fiverr. There's never been such an important time to create a side income or a side hustle that brings you a little bit of money in, as well as making money doing something that you love and enjoy. I created this class to share all of my tips and tricks to help you become a top rated seller on Fiverr. If you don't know what Fiverr is, it's a huge worldwide marketplace where you can sell services starting from $5 to people all over the world, and it's a great way to start building your freelance business and a side income or a side hustle. This course will cover all areas of Fiverr, from a very experienced seller looking at optimizing your gig to appear in more searches, crafting it to be the best it can be to convert as many sales as possible, as well as tons of hacks, tips and tricks whilst working on the Fiverr platform. If you enroll in this class, I'll take you through my 4-part easy to understand process, which focuses on attracting visitors, engaging prospects, converting leads and fulfilling orders. You can understand how to rank higher on Fiverr to get more orders, how to make more money out of every single order and master the art of upselling, and you can get involved in the class project where you can share what you've created with your very first gig with everyone else, and I'll be able to give you some feedback and some tips and tricks on how to optimize and craft your gig perfectly on Fiverr, and that will ensure that you're ready to take your very first order. This is the class that I wish I had when I started out on Fiverr. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on the other side. So first we're going to talk through what Fiverr is as a marketplace. So Fiverr was created back in, I think it was 2010, and now millions and millions of people use the website on a regular basis, and it's grown from this really small startup to actually quite a huge marketplace these days, where sellers all over the world can sell their services, be that SEO, graphic design, content writing, social media, book writing, book editing. There's so much there that you can do. And if you have any particular skill that you can deliver as a service, then you can essentially sell that on Fiverr. It's free to sign up for sellers, so there's no membership fees, there's nothing that you have to pay to create your first gig. So you can get going, you can write the description, write the title, and have the gig set up. It's free to sign up as a seller, so you don't need to pay any subscription fees or anything like that to get started and to start selling on Fiverr. The whole point of Fiverr is you sell your services starting from $5. So you could simply sell, for example, creating a logo or a banner for a website, which is where I started out. You could focus on YouTube thumbnails, which is also what I sell as well. Over time, Fiverr have actually built a lot of changes on the website and made the pricing a lot better. It used to be only $5, but now upselling is a huge part of Fiverr, and actually means that sellers can make some decent money. It used to be really tricky to make a full-time income, whereas now, if you can upsell your services or sell them for more than $5, it's often quite worth it freelancing on the website. So Fiverr do spend a lot of money on their platform, and as a result, when you're selling one gig, and if you sell that for $5, then they take a 20% cut. Now, that does sound like a lot, and I think it is personally still quite a lot, but Fiverr do spend a lot of money on advertising, and they spend a lot of money on building out the platform as well. And the great thing about Fiverr is that it's open to the entire world, so it's a 24/7 platform, and you'll have orders coming through in the middle of the night, on weekends, and obviously it's up to you to moderate how and when you work, but it means that there's a constant stream of people always looking at what you have to offer in your services. So let's have a look at the website and let's jump straight in. You could offer anything from graphic design services. There are tons and tons and tons of services here. So you've got logo, brand identity, visual design, web and mobile, print design, architecture, that's quite niche, product and character design, packaging and labels. In digital marketing, you've got anything from social media, SEO, local SEO, podcast marketing, Writing and translation, there are tons and tons of categories under here. Video and animation, music and audio, programming and tech. If you know programming and coding, for example, you can actually offer your services to fix simple bugs on people's WordPress websites, for example. There are also general business gigs as well, so that could be being a virtual assistant, data entry, market research, and there are loads more. It's a really popular website, tons of people use it, and it's a great place to get started in creating your side hustle and creating your online business. It's how I started back when I was 17 years old. I remember making my first $35 in the first day, and it was just incredible to see this online. I remember working shifts in a pub after a grueling long 7 or 8 hour shift, and I'd earn £35, US, call that 40 or 50. So it was great to see $35 come through on the first day from doing something that I enjoyed and from what I love, which is great. So what we're going to do now is jump into the Fiverr level system before we get into the detail of how to create the gig, how to write the gig description, the title, what to put in the images, and actually going on to the creating your first gig. So the Fiverr level system is something that they've implemented, and when you first sign up to the platform, you actually start off as a seller. Now let's jump in here and I'll show you how the level system actually works and how it behaves in the Fiverr system. So when you first create an account on Fiverr, you'll start just as a standard seller. So there's no particular level to this one. This is the bottom kind of foundation level that everyone becomes when they first join the website. So the first role that you'll start as is seller. Now, as a seller, you can have 7 active gigs. You can have 2 gig extras, which is really important, and we'll actually touch on the importance of upselling in your gig later on and how to create those extras. You can also send custom offers, which is a great feature as well. You'll often find that sometimes people will message you with kind of weird and wonderful requests, and your normal gig might not quite fit the bill on that one. The joys of actually sending custom offers is that if someone messages you, you can send them something for $10, $20, $30, $50 maybe, depending on exactly what they're asking for, especially if it needs more time, more care and attention, or something that isn't quite covered within the standard gig price itself. We then move on to level 1 selling. So there are a few different requirements that you need to make to hit every single level, particularly for this one. They look back at the past 60 days of performance, and if you meet the particular standards that they set, and you'll be able to see this on your profile, you'll then hit a level 1 seller. So you need to have completed at least 60 days as an active seller on Fiverr. You don't need to be selling gigs every single day, you just need to be, as a seller, active for 60 days. That's not hard to complete on that one. You must have completed at least 10 individual orders, and that's your all-time sales. So there's no time scale on this. You must have earned at least $400 within the gigs that you've sold. You must have also maintained a 4.7 star rating over the course of 60 days. Now this means that when a buyer buys a gig from you, make sure you provide an excellent service and that you're getting a 5-star review. If you fall below 4.7 as an average, it's unlikely that you'll be promoted to the next level until your 60-day rolling average increases above 4.7 stars. You must also have, there are certain metrics that Fiverr measure on sellers. So that is the response rate, the order completion, and also the on-time delivery. So you need to make sure that these are all above 90%. And lastly, you also need to avoid receiving any warnings. So don't steal any content. Make sure that you're not stealing, for example, someone's other gig, because you can be struck off for stealing other people's gig descriptions, for example. So just make sure you follow the terms of service on the website and you don't break any rules there. The benefits of being a level 1 seller: you'll have 10 active gigs, so that is 3 more. So once you've proven your initial status on Fiverr and you've gone from a seller to a level 1 seller, you'll now hit the level 2 seller. Now this one is quite hard to get to. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there, so don't rush it and don't be disheartened if you're waiting ages to get the sales and to kind of hit those milestones. You're going to be in a really good position making a decent amount of income on Fiverr. So let's have a look at what it takes to become a level 2 seller on Fiverr. You need to have completed at least 120 days as an active seller. You need to have also completed 50 orders on the website, and that's all time, so it doesn't have to be within the 60-day period. That's just the all-time sales that you would have made on your account. You must have earned at least $2,000 through the platform. You also must maintain the usual 4.7 star rating. Fiverr are huge on their customer service, so they're really, really big on this one. and also making sure you maintain a 90% response rate over the course of 60 days, 90% order completion over the course of 60 days, and 90% on-time delivery. You also, again, need to make sure you avoid having any breaches or kind of strikes against your account by breaking the rules on Fiverr. So just make sure you're aware of the terms and conditions when you sign up to the website. Some of the benefits of having a level 2 seller account is that you get more active gigs, so you can have up to 20. I personally only have 4 or 5 active. I haven't really seen the need to have all 20 at the moment. But if whatever you sell needs 20 active gigs, then by all means that's available for you to use. You can also have up to 5 gig extras on each individual gig as well, which is even more useful for upselling and adding to your average ticket or average sale price per gig. You can also send custom offers up to $10,000. Now this is really, really unique bespoke work, and I have never had anyone on Fiverr ask for something more than $300 as a custom offer. So don't get too excited at a $10,000 custom offer, but if you have a service that is expensive and needs that amount, then it's there for you to do. You also get priority customer support. Now, I am currently a level 2 seller, have been a top rated seller in the past. I definitely have not seen priority customer support. It usually takes more than a day or two for them to get back to me if there's something wrong. So I'm not sure about that one. Now, this is the really interesting part. You can also be eligible to be featured at promotional listings. So this could be on the homepage or part of email campaigns, which is really, really good for exposure and also boosting your sales as well. Now, we finally get on to the last level. So you've got a seller, a level 1 seller, level 2 seller, and then a top rated seller. Now, I used to be a top rated seller back in 2012, and this is before they actually introduced the whole level system. You was either just a normal seller or a top rated seller. And then I took a break from Fiverr for a good 6 years, hence why I'm now level 2. There are now new requirements to become a top rated seller, so let's have a look at what it takes to become and to hit this level. They describe it as an elite group of sellers that enjoy a growing number of exclusive benefits. So you need to have completed at least 180 active days on Fiverr. You need to have completed 100 orders, earned at least $20,000. Now, this is the one thing that's currently stopping me from becoming a top rated seller, because I'm currently at $10,000. And then all the usual, maintaining a 4.7 star rating, 90% response rate, order completion and on-time delivery, making sure again that you don't have any strikes on your account. Some of the benefits of being a top rated seller include 30 active gigs. I personally don't see the reason to have that many active gigs, but it's there if you have that many services to offer. You can add 6 gig extras or upsells onto each individual gig. Your custom offers stay the same at $10,000. Again, I can't really see why you'd need to offer anything over $10,000. And again, what's the same here is that you also get eligibility to be featured in promotional listings, in emails, and any marketing campaigns that Fiverr do as well. So that's the Fiverr level system. And as you start to climb through the ranks, it's definitely a kind of social status thing on Fiverr as well. If you are looking through as a buyer and you notice that someone is a top rated seller, you are statistically more likely to buy from that person. So it definitely helps in terms of getting more sales. And there is a snowball effect as well. You're definitely going to see slower sales starting off on Fiverr as a standard seller versus if you're a top rated seller at the top of the rankings with a really high listed gig, you're definitely more likely to make those sales. So just work your way through those different levels. Now, in this video, we're going to go into a little bit more detail around trying to price yourself properly on Fiverr. Now, the way Fiverr works is that people usually start selling their services from $5. That's what the website is all about. But what you've got to understand is how much is your time worth. Now, I'm a UK seller, and the pound is worth a little bit more than $1. So I've got to ensure that when I'm working through all the gigs, it's actually worth my time and I'm not working for less than what is the UK minimum wage. As we can see on the screen here, what you can actually see is my current earnings dashboard. Now, some of the payments are pending and it takes 2 weeks for those payments to go through until I can then withdraw them from my account. So as you can see, I'm just shy of $10,000 net income, which is fantastic. I've currently just got just under $200 ready for withdrawal. But as you can see here, this is the kind of key point I want to get to, is the amount that I'm selling per gig. Now, if you're selling lots of $5 gigs and that one gig takes you 30 minutes to do, you're only going to be earning $10 an hour. Now, is that really worth your time is the big question. But also remember that you're not going to be getting gigs every hour of every day. So you might only have 1 or 2 gigs a day, 1 or 2 gigs a week. and therefore the actual time made per hour isn't as much. So let's have a look at my clearings page, and this is the most important part here. This is the point that I want to try and get across in the video. So as you can see here, some of the gigs I'm selling, that one went for $40, I made 64 on that one, 32, 20, 20, and typically I tend to take about 10, usually 15 minutes maximum on the gig, and that means if I can get through, you know, say 4 or 5 an hour, and I'm selling, for example, some, and actually a lot do go through for $5, and this is taking the 20% fee off of it as well. So here, if I can get through 4 or 5 of these gigs in an hour, I might have one where I have $40 and I get through it really quickly. I have another one that's 64, and all of a sudden that's more than $100 made in one single hour, which is great. And that's the point I'm trying to make around understanding how long it takes for you to finish that one gig. If it's going to take you 1 hour to finish a gig and you're selling your services for $5, it's going to take a lot of time to make a reasonable amount of income on Fiverr. Whereas here, if you're making $40 sales and $64 sales, and you're doing 4 or 5 of these every single hour, then that's where all of a sudden the money can be really, really lucrative on Fiverr, and that's how you really start to position yourself in the market. There's definitely a big balance between making sure that you're selling your services for the right price, otherwise people are just not going to buy the gig. Fiverr is known for being a cheap website, so you don't want to price it too high too soon because you just won't make those sales. But it's understanding how you give people great value while also trying to keep it really, really quick. That could be having templates or style sheets that you use to speed up the work, be that design, writing, SEO, whatever it is. Find a way to systemize that process, and that will help you get through as many gigs as possible within a 1 hour period to ensure that you can increase your hourly rate as much as possible to make it beneficial and lucrative on Fiverr. For me personally, I tend to get through 4 or 5 gigs in an hour, and those gigs can usually be priced at an average of around $12. I think that's my average. Now, as you can see on this screen, actually it tells me my average selling price. My average selling price gig per gig basis is actually £10, and for some reason Fiverr converts this page to pounds and all the rest of it to dollars, which makes no sense, but it's £10 here. So if I can get through 4 or 5 of these in an hour, my hourly rate is about £50 an hour, or about $65 US, which all of a sudden becomes very lucrative. And obviously there's not enough orders coming in to have that all day every day, so it's not £50 an hour or $65 an hour all day every day. It's kind of segmented here and there, but it's a nice side income, and it's something that makes it very, very worthwhile rather than just working for £5 or $5 an hour. So let's have a look at YouTube thumbnails. Now, this is my niche that I work in, it's my speciality, and it's been a really, really hot product recently, and that's what's driving a lot of my sales. So as I've typed in here the main keyword YouTube thumbnails, and I'll touch on SEO later and how to rank in the Fiverr search engine, you can actually see my gig here, which is 3rd. That's actually really good. It's jumped up recently. So let's have a look at the way people are pricing themselves. Now, because I'm in the UK, you're seeing UK prices here, so you have to tweak a little bit for dollars. But as you can see here, I offer one thumbnail for $5, and let's have a look here. This person is hugely, hugely underselling himself. He's going to design 5 thumbnails in 24 hours for $5. That's $1 a thumbnail. Now, usually a good thumbnail would take 5 to 10 minutes each, so that's going to take him easily 1 hour to create all of those. So he's really underselling himself, and he's got some reviews and people are ordering from him. It's a good tactic if you're brand new and you're happy to get those reviews in, but it's not going to be efficient for that person as more and more orders come in. He's really underselling his service there. As you can see, this person here who is a level 1 seller, so he's also been bumped up due to the algorithm, he is offering one thumbnail, but he's actually selling that for $10 or £7.90. So that's actually more than what I'm selling mine for. There are kind of certain variances with this as well. So as you can see here, this seller is doing custom and drawn YouTube thumbnails, and he's selling them, I'm going to assume that's probably about $25 he's selling it for. But that's a custom service, it's custom drawn, and it's very different to what I would do on Photoshop, designing and laying out a more digital thumbnail rather than drawing it from scratch. So that does make sense in terms of a specialist service. And Fiverr obviously like this one so much, they've actually given it a Fiverr's Choice stamp, and that's going to be really, really good for him making sales. So as you can see here on the page, there's lots of different price points. Usually people are selling one thumbnail for $5. I've seen some doing 2 or 3 for $5. There's obviously the one guy doing 5 for $5, which is quite underselling himself. It all depends. You have to do your research. Just look through whatever gig you're selling and just understand what people are offering and for how much. And that could be, for example, if you're a copywriter, you might sell 250 words per $5. Some might be selling 500 words per $5. It's just understanding what other people are doing and pricing yourself in the right point to get sales, but also not undersell yourself. So now we're in the last section of the basics of Fiverr. One thing I really wanted to touch on is actually going into more detail around the pros and cons of Fiverr. Now, there are loads and loads of articles online that talk about why it's bad for the freelancing economy, and I can actually really understand why this is true. Now, Fiverr, when it was first born in 2010, literally sold their services for $5 each, and it was actually really hard to make a decent income. And when people are selling logos for $5, for example, it really devalues the graphic design industry. And it's similar for copywriting. It can be a very specialized skill and actually can cost quite a lot of money in the real world. But on Fiverr, it made it very cheap and very accessible. But it means that small businesses don't pay those professionals and instead pay someone who maybe might outsource it to a country where earnings are a lot lower and therefore they don't need to charge as much. So there's a lot of debate around, is Fiverr devaluing the economy? And I actually did my dissertation at university on gig economies like Fiverr and Odesk and Freelancer, and is it really devaluing the industry? So let's jump into some of the pros of Fiverr and why I really like Fiverr as a platform. The one major thing I really like about the platform, and it's very similar to Airbnb, to YouTube and other websites where they're very big brands that are very well known, and lots of people visit the website every single day. It means that if you're starting as a new business, you don't have to spend money on tons of advertising, working out complicated SEO. All you have to do is set your gig up and you will have thousands of people going to that website every single day and searching for your gig. So you have this ready-made audience of people waiting to go, and it's a really great way to build a business in 2020 when you have this platform full of people already. The second pro that I really like in terms of Fiverr is that it's a great way to make a side income. If 2020 has shown us anything, it's that having a side hustle or a side income can be really important. It gives you that extra little bit of security if anything happened with your normal 9-to-5 job, for example. And even for some Fiverr sellers, they actually work full-time on Fiverr and it's their full-time income. And some of the top-rated sellers can make in excess of 6 figures. So it's a great way to make some serious income. The third pro of why I really like Fiverr is that it's a clean, easy-to-use platform. They've designed it really well and they have evolved it over the years. It's very different from when I first started using it back in 2010. They've definitely spent a lot of money on the design and their product owners have really thought about how it all works together. It means it's great for buyers and it's great for sellers. And the fourth pro is very similar to number one. Because you're on this ready-made platform with people searching Fiverr every single day, I've noticed quite a bit of a snowball effect. So getting that first order can be quite difficult. But once you get the first order in and the first 5-star review, all of a sudden the second one comes in and the third one and the fourth one. And it has this snowball effect. And I'm actually at a point now where I'm trying to keep the orders down because I've been getting in excess of 15 orders a day at times. And actually for me, that's a little bit too much, but it's definitely snowballing. And I can see how if I allowed it, Fiverr could become a very lucrative full-time income for me. Now, let's touch on some of the cons of Fiverr. I've worked on Fiverr for many years. So the number one con that I guess lets Fiverr down for me is that Fiverr massively favour the buyers, which means that if you're a seller and something goes wrong, often buyers can be really unfair. They could be asking for revisions that are a little bit too much or changing from their initial requirements, and it's wasting your time. But ultimately, if Fiverr favour the buyer, then you're going to have to do that. I've had buyers who have been actually quite horrible in messages and saying, yeah, this work I could make on Microsoft Paint, it's rubbish, blah blah, I want a refund straight away. And you have no real protection on Fiverr. It could be that the buyer asks you personally for a refund if you're not happy to give it because you've done them loads of work, you've done them loads of revisions, or it's not in your policy when you're selling your gig. All the buyer has to do is go to Fiverr customer support and Fiverr customer support will refund it, no questions asked. I've had large orders refunded out of my account back to the buyer because Fiverr customer support have been told, even though the work's been finished and delivered and they have the files, Fiverr have taken that money out of my account and given it back to the buyer. The other thing that can happen, that I think happened once or twice to me, is you could deliver the work, the buyer gets all the files and everything that you've done in your hard work, it all goes through and starts to process, but then the buyer sends a chargeback through PayPal to Fiverr, and then all that happens there is that Fiverr customer support take the money out of your account rather than them taking the hit, and that means that the buyer has got your work and they've also got their money back as a refund for free. The second major con for me is actually Fiverr customer support. Now, it really grinds my gears, and I can't explain how many times I've actually had to contact Fiverr customer support recently. They do all sorts of things. They take down gigs for no reasons, which I always find absolutely baffling. They take gigs down for the smallest of reasons that make no sense. They're very generic reasons as well that aren't tangible or specific to help you get those gigs live again. Whenever I've made a few tweaks or optimizations to my gigs, I've noticed they've dropped out of the rankings, and I've had to get in touch with support to put it back into the rankings again, and that takes another day or two. I've also found that the support take a good day or two to respond to queries as well. So as I've been relying on some of the income from Fiverr, sometimes my sales have dropped off for a good 2 or 3 days, which is not really good when you're relying on Fiverr as an income. And lastly, the big con of Fiverr, and this is more of a tip, I would definitely suggest not putting all of your eggs in one basket. When I see interviews of people who are full-time on Fiverr and making all their income in there, that's quite scary. And you see this with a lot of big YouTubers who try and build audiences outside of the platform. Don't rely on Fiverr too much, because it is so simple for Fiverr customer support to remove your account, and there are lots of horror stories on the Fiverr forums of this happening for not any reason, or it might be that your gig drops out of the rankings completely and your sales drop off of a cliff. If you're relying on Fiverr full time, make sure you have a protection and just don't put your eggs in one basket, because if things do go wrong, if anything happens to Fiverr, if customer support do something weird on your account, which is actually and unfortunately quite common, it means that your income is going to be affected, so bear that in mind as well. So that's the end of the basics of Fiverr. We're actually going to be jumping into the next main section, which is all about attracting visitors. So now we enter the attracting visitors section. This is the first of the 4 parts of the class, so let's jump in and let's have a look at a very popular gig on Fiverr, and let's break down bit by bit how this seller has constructed the gig, and let's take some really good tips. And I'll start to take you through bit by bit in the future classes actually how to craft a great title, how to craft an amazing description, and really custom optimize that gig to get as many sales as possible. So let's have a look here. So this is a SEO gig that I found that came up after literally just typing in the word SEO. So the whole premise of Fiverr is that the name of the gig always starts with I will ... So here, I will build high quality, do follow SEO backlinks, link building Google top ranking. Now that doesn't sound very clean in terms of English language. And what this seller has actually done here is trying to get across what they're selling, but also hit it from a search perspective as well. So this is an SEO seller changing and tweaking their title for SEO purposes within Fiverr, and we'll touch that in a later class, and there's a huge section on SEO within Fiverr. But the whole point of the title is to tell the buyer exactly what they're going to get. It needs to be very clear and very specific, so as they're searching through all the listings, they know exactly what they're going to get with this one. So here, we've already covered all the levels, but as you can see, this is very similar to social status. Seeing someone as a top-rated seller is definitely going to increase the chances of buying. Likewise, if you're a level 1 seller or level 2, it's going to add to your credibility on Fiverr as a platform. Reviews are a huge part of it. It's all social proof, and it shows that there are lots of happy customers who are buying from this seller, and it's, again, great, huge social proof. Another interesting little feature is how many orders are in the queue. Now this does show how busy someone is, but if you can see that a particular Fiverr seller has got lots and lots of orders in the queue, it means that a lot of people really like this person and hence buying with them. So it actually, as me as a buyer, makes me feel more likely to buy from that person as well. Now on the right hand side, what we've got here is actually a kind of 3-tier pricing strategy. Now there are 2 ways to price your gig on Fiverr, and I'll show you when we create the gig. You can either create a standard 1 price gig, or you can create 3 different tiers, and this is what he's done here. So he's offering 15 backlinks for £40, 55 backlinks for £120, or 110 backlinks for £177. Obviously work out the USD conversion for that. And here there are different things that he includes. You can see that in the standard package, he will also include a backlink analysis, but no competitor backlink analysis. Whereas in the premium, you get all of the backlinks. He claims that they're manual. You get all the backlink analysis, and you also get competitor backlink analysis as well. So there's it's the idea of tiering your pricing and adding more and more as that goes up. Most people, I think, will go for the basic service, although you will get quite a few who go for the standard. So kind of make that your most popular option, so to speak. And then you'll have a few, but not many, who go for the premium option. Now, the main key area here, after the title and the rankings, the title and the reviews, is the images themselves. And again, there's another class that goes into the image itself. As you can see here, it's something that's very clear, it's very specific, and this first image is what all of the buyers will see when they're searching within Fiverr. What he's got here on the second and third image, you can actually have 3 images in total on your gig, is some results. So there's some proof here that he's trying to show of ranking improvements from number 7 in Google to number 3 and number 10 to number 1. And also showing here how some different rankings have performed. Now, what Fiverr show next is just some of the kind of snippet reviews here, and these are the most recent ones, so you just get a really quick view of what people are saying about this seller. And now let's move on to the description. Here, there's a mixture of bold, there's bullets, and there's also highlights, and it's really, really clear in sections as well. So it's really nice what he's done here. He's kind of given some credibility to his own experience, and that's separate, it's bold, and it's also highlighted. As you can see here, it's just had a really, really clear use of bullet points and even numbering as well. So there's no huge blocks of text and massive blocks of paragraphs. It's very clear, it's very short and very concise as well. It tells you exactly what you're going to get. So high quality SEO backlinks, manual, they're going to be do follow links, contextual. And what I really like about this is that it also just calls out a few notable mentions, what you'll get very simply, and the main features of the links themselves. It's really clear, it's really concise, and it gets straight to the point. And this is what's really going to drive and grab the visitors and convert them into leads and prospects. Below the gig description, you have an about the seller section, and there's another class on this that will go through how to create the perfect profile. This includes the name, a very, very short statement or tagline for the profile, as well as a slightly longer description for the actual seller themselves as well, including where they're from, how long they've been a member on the site, their average response time, and when their last delivery was as well. So you can see that this guy delivered only 3 hours ago on his last gig. Below that, you've actually got the breakdown of the pricing strategy. So you can see here the 3 different tiers of pricing that he has, what's included with each one, and then what the price is with all the call to actions to then buy the gig. We then move on to the FAQ section. This is really, really underutilized on Fiverr. I don't see many people using the FAQ section. It's a great way to put loads of keywords into your gig profile page, which is fantastic for Google, and it's great for Fiverr search as well. But it also means that if your buyers have particular questions, they can just jump straight in here, and this can answer the majority of them to try and keep the floods of messages down that do come through sometimes on some of the gigs. And then last but not least is the actual reviews themselves. As you can see here, this seller has got majority 5-star reviews. Most people do tend just to leave a 5-star review on Fiverr. You get the odd few who are going to leave a 1-star review. You can never please everyone. There are going to be some idiots about, and you just have to accept that's the life of being online. And as you can see here, this is all the social proof of people who are leaving reviews, and what's quite nice here is that the seller himself is actually going back and commenting on every single person that leaves him a review, which is a really nice little touch as well. So hopefully that's really interesting to see how a top-rated seller creates their gig and structures the whole thing together. In the next class, we're actually going to look at how to create a killer profile. Welcome back to the second class of attracting visitors. So what we're going to look at in this class is actually going through the anatomy of a profile on Fiverr. Now, there's lots of focus on the gig itself and also trying to make sure that the gig is well optimized, it has the right search optimization in there. But actually a really key point is the profile itself, and that's a huge selling point, is you, the seller, who is running the gig and selling those gigs to buyers on Fiverr. So let's take a look at my profile and how I've structured it. And what I'll do is I'll take you through some of the key features of the profile and some of the ways that I've optimized it to resonate well with buyers. So this is the view of the Fiverr profile from someone who's logged in or as a seller. So let's have a look through. So you can see all of my active gigs here. You can see that I sell YouTube thumbnails. I also design custom YouTube banners. I also do a little bit of SEO work as well there. So I only have 5 gigs that are active amongst my profile. There are loads of other drafts that I've got from many years ago, but I essentially don't touch those anymore. So there's a few things that you'll see on the profile here. So you've got the total reviews. So I have 765 reviews. The key things up here, so I'm currently a level 2 seller. The only thing holding me back is the total sales. I need $20,000 and I currently have just shy of $10,000. So I've got a few more months to go until I'll hit the full top rated seller status. So the main thing here is the profile photo itself. So the profile photo is a huge selling point. My key advice here is put a smiling photo of you. The worst thing you want is some kind of generic business related photo. So having a person to relate to puts a face behind the profile. It makes the whole thing a bit more personal and a bit more relatable as well. The second area is the actual tagline to the profile itself. So this is what you can see here. So I've put here YouTube expert, custom thumbnails, banners and SEO. So it's got to be short and snappy. And this is what we saw in the previous class where you see the tagline appearing in the profile section of the gig itself. So this is really key in terms of search optimization within Fiverr. You've then got the reviews. You can see I have 765 reviews there. There's some stats here that aren't visible from a public perspective. So, for example, my response time is a little bit slow at the moment. I've been kind of having a few issues with US orders coming through overnight and people having to wait many hours for me to wake up in the morning to then respond to them. My last delivery was 28 minutes ago. There is an out-of-office option. So the thing with Fiverr is that it displays you in the search, and each order or gig that you have that comes in is on a timer that you set. So that could be 1 day, it could be 2 days, it could be 7 days. If you want to stop orders coming in, then all you have to do is hit the out of office toggle just there. So let's get to some really key parts of it. So one thing you definitely want to fill in is the description. So this is where you can tell the buyers a little bit about yourself, what your experience is, what you've done, how long you've been doing it. And it's a really key place to sell yourself here as well. So I've just said, hey there, my name's Matt. I'm a designer based in the UK. I've been working on Fiverr since 2011 and love working with people like you to give the ability to have awesome and stunning visuals. So it's a nice introduction. It's saying hello. It's aimed specifically at the buyer itself as well. So make sure you fill this bit in. Languages, if you know more than one language, then put them all in here as well, because Fiverr is an international website with people from all languages and all countries. I unfortunately only speak English, so that's what I put there. So tests is a new feature that Fiverr have put in there as well. You can actually pay to sign up to particular courses and then take those tests. And if you test your skills and then get graded, etc., that is displayed on your profile. It gives you greater authority. From what I've seen and from what I've read amongst the member forums on Fiverr, this doesn't seem to have too much / any of an impact whatsoever on the search rankings. I wouldn't worry about this too much, but it's good from a credibility point of view. You then have all of your linked accounts. So I've linked Facebook and Google. Again here, I'd link a few of them. You don't need to go too overboard. It's not going to affect your search rankings too much. Up here, just a little bit is all the reviews that you have most recently. So I have one 5 hours ago from one of my most recent orders, one 22 hours ago, 1 day, 2 days. So you can see that these active buyers are leaving reviews as I complete the gigs in the evening. The next bit that's also very interesting, and you actually have to fill in these skills as you release particular gigs. For example, I have an SEO gig, so I had to take a 40-minute test on Fiverr to pass their test to be able to market myself and sell my SEO skills. For example, you could take graphic design ones, logo design, Adobe Photoshop. I've listed these skills manually on my profile, but some of them are linked to what we call Fiverr exams, which means that you have to prove that you know and have those skills to be able to sell that service on Fiverr. And that essentially keeps all of the skill on Fiverr above board without people selling services that they don't actually have. And it keeps a quality factor there as well. You can put education. I haven't really bothered. It doesn't do too much, but it can be interesting for the buyers. And also certifications as well. So I've just put 2 different courses that I've done, which is user experience design I did last year and product management as well with a company called General Assembly. And that essentially makes up the profile. So just to recap what we want to be doing here. So you want to be having a key photo of your face that's personal. You want to make sure that you include a really snappy and clear to the point tagline. And also you want to be filling in the description that's personal and that's aimed at the buyer as well, and also mentions the services that you sell. Head on over to the next class where we get into the really, really juicy details, and that's going to be all about search engine optimization within Fiverr. So that's trying to rank your gig as high as possible when people search for the most popular terms. And we're going to look at how to find those terms, keyword variations, and then how to optimize your gig to specifically target those keywords. Welcome back to the class. Now, this is going to be one of the more interesting classes out of all of the videos that we've got here on Skillshare. So what I'm going to be doing is going into detail around the search engine optimization within Fiverr itself. So one of the real keys to making sales within Fiverr is ranking your gig high on the search for some of the main keywords. Now, this is crucial whether it's eBay, Google, Amazon, or Fiverr is included as well. It's a huge, huge part of the marketplace, and nailing the SEO on your gig can make or break your Fiverr career for sure. What we're going to do is we're going to look at how to find keywords. We're also then going to see how to find alternative versions of those keywords and really understand what buyers are searching for, to then take that and then put that onto your gig to ensure that your gig is SEO optimized for whatever you're selling your gig in. So here we are on the Fiverr homepage, and I've just flicked to buying mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use writing as a service, or copywriting. So to start to begin to find some seed keyword ideas, all I'm going to do is simply go into Find Services and type in the word copywriting and see what comes up. So before I hit enter, I don't need to go on to the next page. What we can see here is that copywriting as a single word is very popular. Sales copywriting has come up, email copywriting, Facebook ad copywriting, copywriting for websites, and Amazon listing copywriting. So automatically and straight away, Fiverr is already auto-suggesting some very popular keywords to you. So this is a really, really great way to kind of get some snippets of keywords. Let's say, for example, we're going to specialize in email copywriting. What I can then do from there is look at typing the word email. Let's see what comes up. Okay, marketing could be a decent keyword there. Let's look at email writing. Nothing comes up there. Email copywriting. Nothing comes up there as well. So I think the main one is going to be email and sales copywriting, along with copywriting as a word as well. So this is a really, really great way to find some seed keywords. We could do the same, for example. So let's look at SEO. And what we get here is SEO as a single keyword that I've just searched. We've got SEO service, SEO YouTube, SEO keyword research, article writing, and so on. You get the point. So this is a really great way to find keywords. So have a go and see what you can find here. So there are a few key things that you have to do to sprinkle the keywords now we've found them into the gig. So going on the SEO example, as we can see here, if we look at SEO, there's a few different keywords that come up, and SEO backlinks is one of them. So let's have a look here. This is a top-rated seller that we have on Fiverr. He appears quite high for a lot of search terms in regards to SEO. So let's have a look at what he's doing and pick out how he's optimizing his gig to rank for the killer keywords that are getting him the sales. So as you can see here, he's got 41 orders in his queue, and he's only got 245 reviews. So this gig is very popular at the moment. So what we can see here is we know that, for example, here we can see that SEO backlinks is the keyword, SEO service, SEO keyword research. So what he's done has sprinkled that main keyword, SEO backlinks, straight into his title. So that's point number one, is put the keyword into the title. So he's saying here, I will 150 SEO backlinks, white hat manual link building service, Google top ranking. So what he's also done here as well, I think I can see, is if I type in the word manual backlinks, manual link building is also a keyword. So he's taken this keyword and he's put that also into his title. So what he's done is stuffed his title with, I can see, probably a mixture or variation of 2 or 3 keywords, but he's been quite clever because people will be searching for things like white hat backlinks, which is essentially this keyword here backwards. So there's different variations here, but it's a really well optimized title, which you would expect for a search engine seller on Fiverr. The next key area is also here where he's selling the service. So there aren't any buy now buttons because this seller's on holiday, so I can't see it. But what he's done here is put things like foundation backlinks or white hat foundation backlinks into the title of the product that he's selling. It's also within the description of the product as well. And then we go down to the description of the gig as well. So the key here is to find the keyword and put that also into the description as well. So let's try and find some live examples of what he's done here. So SEO specialist is a good case for a keyword. So link building service is straight away in the description. High quality backlinks is in there as well. Let's have a look, what else can we find? Okay, yeah, so it's not too extreme. So just to recap here, so if I type in link building, what you can see here is link building, SEO link building backlinks, manual link building. So remember all of those words, and we can see those sprinkled within the description itself. And it's as simple as that. Find the keywords, put it in the title, and then also put it in the description as well. And this will send a stronger signal to Fiverr to say, hey, this is what this gig is all about. Please listen and rank me when people search for this keyword. The next area, and we've already touched on this in creating the killer profile, is make sure your keyword, and he doesn't do this, but I highly recommend it, is put your keyword into the tagline in your profile, because that also is displayed on each gig that you sell. The other area is also in the description on your profile as well, so just make sure it appears in all these locations. Some of the places where you can put it, although this is optional, is into the FAQs itself. Now, I've read a lot of threads on the Fiverr forums about this, and there's no clear-cut definitive research that proves this, but some people say it helps, some people say it doesn't really make much of a difference. But one thing to do is put the keyword into your FAQs, be that in the questions or in the description itself. And then the very, very, very last part of the gig, and I'll show you this as we start to create your gig and we go through step by step how to create your very first gig on Fiverr, is related tags. Now, the tags are also a huge part. So you can see here from the keywords that we've researched, he's got SEO service, that came up on the search. Manual backlinks, we've seen that in the search. SEO backlinks, we've definitely seen that one. The single word backlinks and link building. So we've seen all of those words appear in those auto-suggested search terms. They're all over his gig description and his gig title, and then they're also within his 5 available tags that he's put on his profile as well. And that is essentially how to SEO optimize your Fiverr gig. It's not rocket science. It's essentially taking what Fiverr suggests to you and seeing some of the popular terms that it throws back, and then putting those keywords into your gig, because that's what people are searching for. Stay tuned for the next class. What we're going to do is actually start going through creating your very first gig and showing step by step everything we've learned so far, from the levels to creating a killer profile, understanding the SEO, and just generally understanding what niche and what type of gig that you want to sell. In the next class, we're going to go through step by step how to create that gig and how to take everything we've learned so far into practice. So as you can see here, we're on the seller part of Fiverr and we're on the gigs tab here. And what you've got is all your active gigs. It gives you all the data. So you can see here you've got impressions. My best seller here, which has got, of the last 30 days, 24,000 impressions, 985 clicks and 71 orders, versus I've got a second variation that also ranks quite well in the rankings on Fiverr. 12k impressions, and off the back of that I've had 16 orders. So it's just a great way to boost some of my orders coming through as well. So they're my most popular gigs. So all you have to do is click create gig, and then this is the very first page of creating a brand new gig. So let's stick to the SEO example as we've gone through some of the SEO keywords already, so we'll use that as a case study. So as you can see here, every gig on Fiverr starts with the words I will ... And it's up to you to fill in whatever that is. So The maximum that we can put in here is 80 characters, so it has to be short, has to be sharp, and it has to be snappy. So for example, you could put, I will build 100, if this was your service, SEO actually I'm going to do SEO white hat backlinks for your website. So nice and simple, all I've done is put the keyword SEO white hat backlinks into the titles. We've found that from the search already. This says just perfect. It's a little bit short of the max, but you don't want it to be too long. People have a short attention span, and when you've got tons and tons and tons of listings on each search, you don't want to be making your buyers read too much. Select the category. So this time it's actually auto suggested it. So I'm going to go digital marketing SEO. And then service type. So they've actually Fiverr created subcategories of this SEO category itself. So this is going to be off-page SEO, and this is backlink building. Then Fiverr allows you to enter 5 industries that you focus on. Now this bit is optional, and it's part of the gig metadata. Supposedly it helps. I actually don't believe that myself, but if you want to put some industries on there, you can. Otherwise, you don't have to. You can also select different languages as well. So if you're copywriting, for example, this would be a really, really useful feature on this one. And then here, this is probably the second most important part of the page. So you've got the title, and we've put the keywords in here. Now you can have up to 5 tags, and these are really, really good from a search perspective. So off the previous class we've already looked at, we know some of the keywords are SEO, SEO backlinks, SEO service was another one. Have I spelled that right? Service. And actually, what Fiverr does here, you can see, is that it suggests some of these keywords to you as well. So they make it so easy to optimize it. So I'm going to go for, let's type in the word backlink and see what comes up. Authority backlinks and white hat backlinks. So they are my 5 tags. When people search along Fiverr, these are going to have a huge influence in what comes up. It doesn't have to be an exact match, but it's definitely going to help in terms of loosely or broadly matching the keywords to what people are searching. So then we'll hit save and continue. So now we're on the second part of creating the gig. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. There's 2 ways to price it. So you can either have a 3-tier pricing strategy, or you can just go to a simple one price fits all. For the purpose of the video and for the Skillshare class, I'm just going to go for the basic one price. If you want to do 3, which is a basic, standard, and premium, by all means you can do that. So I'm going to say here, name of the package, 100 backlinks, describe the details, so high-powered, friendly, white hat backlinks for your website. Delivery time. Now this is really important. So you don't want to create a delivery time that's too long. There's definitely a sense of urgency on Fiverr, and a fast turnaround is always a really good thing. What you don't want to do is make it too short so that you can't complete the orders in time, because that will affect your order completion rate that we mentioned in the levels class. So you've got to make sure that you deliver more than 90% of your orders on time. And actually that's quite an easy thing to do. I'm always at 100%. I've actually not slipped below 100% yet, which is fine. The moment you deliver it, even if people ask for revisions or something like that, then that doesn't count towards the delivery time. So it's just for you to deliver the first iteration of whatever it is you're selling. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to put 4 days for SEO to build the backlinks, to generate the report, and then to send that to the buyer and mark it as complete. This is an off-page strategy. I'm not going to be doing any backlink analysis within this. There's no foreign marketing. And I'm also not going to be doing any competitor backlink analysis included in the price. So here, for example, you can choose any price you want up to, let's have a look here, $9.95, which is actually quite a lot for a gig. Let's say on this one, I'm going to sell this service for $20. Okay, so now we go down to a really, really important part of upselling a gig. And I mentioned this earlier in the Skillshare class, and one way to generate extra money on Fiverr is pricing your gig actually slightly lower than the market, but then offering really, really useful upsells, or extras as they call it on Fiverr, to your buyers. And as the buyer goes through, they look at the service and they go, oh, this is fantastic. And then as they go through the sales funnel to buy the gig, they then see some really high value, useful extras they can use as well, and they then add this onto the gig. And that's how you start selling. For example, if the base price is $20, you could easily upsell to make that $40, $50, $60, depending what extras you put in there. So some examples here, for example, you could do extra fast delivery and say, I'm going to turn this around in 2 days, and I'm going to charge an extra $10 to do that, for example. I'm also going to do some competitor backlink analysis for $10, no extra time. Another one might be an extra 100 backlinks. I will build an additional 100 backlinks for your website. And you could do that for an extra $20, or maybe put a small discount on this of $15 and an additional 2 days, for example. I'm just making this up as I go along. The key here really is just trying to add useful, valuable services to the buyer, and it's something they would want to buy. Here, for example, you might also include extra .edu links. So edu links are quite powerful in the SEO world. I will build 5 edu links if that's what you was going to do for an additional, let's say this is a premium service and it was $30 and an additional 2 days. Obviously, I'm making all of this up, but it's the idea of adding additional value to your base gig. So the base gig attracts the customer in, but this here is where you start to engage and start to convert them as well. Okay, so we've gone through the overview of the gig, we've gone through the pricing, and now we're going to look at the description and frequently asked questions. So again, this is really, really crucial from an SEO perspective, and definitely take advantage of the FAQs. I see so many sellers on Fiverr who aren't using FAQs, and it's just a really good way to enrich your gig itself and just make it look a bit more professional. So I'm going to write something really quick. I'm not going to fill the full 1200 characters on this video, but just something so you kind of get the point of what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to achieve. So, for example, I might say, hey there, my name is Matt and I'm an SEO expert. I've been selling on Fiverr since 2011 and have worked with many clients, helping them rank their websites on Google for 5 years, for example. I'm making this up. Cool, so then I'm going to make this really clear and really concise and put it into sections. So for example, so I might do what you'll get, SEO backlink service. So this is one of the keywords that I'm sprinkling here. So there's going to be a keyword in here, which is SEO service, that I'm going to sprinkle in with 100 backlinks. No follow, and then you kind of get the point here. So you're starting to get an idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to write something out very quickly off camera, and then I'm going to go back and we'll go through and just analyse what is on there. So what we've done here is take a little bit of inspiration from the Fiverr market. Do not copy anyone else's gig on Fiverr because it will get marked by customer support. So make sure you can take inspiration from other sellers and see what the top rated sellers are doing, but do not directly copy their work. Cool, so here to kind of go with the backlink and the SEO theming, so I've got hard hitting intro statements. So backlinks are the most important Google ranking factors, did you know? Then we start to go into a bit more detail. So here we're saying getting traffic to the website is absolutely crucial. So that's kind of the problem statement. So what you want to do is look at what is the customer problem. So here it's getting traffic is a huge one for any blog owner or website owner. And it's saying here that it's absolutely crucial. Also, it's very expensive for a lot of people. You've got 2 problem statements here for a customer, and what you are going to do is solve their problem. So as you go here, here's some good news. My SEO backlinks can give you a website the extra push it needs to start ranking for profitable search terms. Often is the case when people are wanting SEO services, they're trying to target profitable niches, profitable keywords to drive in traffic, which then enters their sales funnel or whatever they do with their website and the traffic that enters it. So here then we've got a bit of a bullet point description of what the service is and what's provided. And then a little bit more information about link building itself, things like languages. So for example here, if you was going to offer it in English and Portuguese, you could make sure that's clear on there as well. And you can also put it in the on the previous page that we've seen with the gig description. So the last thing that we need to do is just sprinkle some keywords in here. Actually, as I've gone writing through it, actually the SEO is not as good as what it should be. So I'm actually just going to sprinkle, for example, SEO backlinks there, white hat Google ranking, and I'm just going to put here using SEO service. So we've sprinkled a few of the keywords here. So SEO service was one, SEO backlinks is another, and white hat is a really popular one as well. So you've got the word SEO, the word backlinks, the word SEO service, because that was an individual term as well, and white hat. So together, that should be enough, along with the title, the description, the tags, and anything else you sprinkle around. You don't need to overdo it too much, so it doesn't need to be mentioned every 5 words, because it's not going to sound very human, and often that can have a negative effect. So this is a really nice balance. Again, you can then fill in some frequent asked questions. So I'm going to type in here, how long does the order take? The order takes, etc., etc. So you get a point on that one. And then let's just add one more for demonstration purposes. What is the trust, flow, and domain authority of the backlinks? DA and TF are minimum 30 plus for every backlink. And what you want to do here is you can add 10 FAQs maximum. I would add as many as possible, try and use all 10 and just bulk out, because it just makes the gig look a little bit more complete and a little bit more professional. Save and continue. And then here we're onto the requirements. So what the requirements are is once the buyer orders the gig and then they come through and they've paid and all the rest of it, it comes through to your seller's profile. If you need any specific instructions or information from the buyer, this is the place to write the questions out, just like a form that they would then fill in. And then once they submit these requirements, they would then hit save or continue or start the order, whatever the button is on their side. And then that triggers the start of the gig order. So you could say here, what is the URL you're targeting? You can choose whether it's multiple answer, whether it's a file, or whether it's mandatory. So I'm just going to do 3 for example's sake. So what are the keywords? 5 maximum. Cool. And then I'm going to do one more, which could be, what have I done so far? Let's have a look. URL, keywords, and let's do what is the niche you're targeting. So just make sure here you're asking all the relevant questions, all the information that you need up front to then literally take the order and start it straight away without asking any more questions to the buyer. So now we're into the gig gallery. Now this is really, really important, and I've said that about a lot of aspects of the gigs. It's all important overall. The photo is what is going to drive people to click onto your gig from the search results. So it needs to be clear, it needs to be engaging, and it needs to look professional as well. I've actually got some examples already, and I'm going to pop them in here. So I've got some images that I made earlier, and I'll show these on the preview of the gig in a bit more detail, but you want something that's really clear, really professional. The one thing I've noticed on Fiverr is that a lot of people are bad at designing their gig thumbnails. You can use something like Canva. I highly, highly recommend Canva. I'll pop a link in the description to use it. It's a free tool, or there's also a paid version where you can quickly and easily create graphics if you're not a natural graphic designer. And that'll just help you spruce up and make everything look really, really professional. Another thing that you can do is you can add videos. Now, videos are really engaging. It's you speaking directly to the buyers on Fiverr, and they often say here that it is that videos can increase your engagement by 40%. Not sure whether it's true, but it's definitely worth trying out. I actually haven't used it on my gigs yet. I do plan to at some point. It's just making sure that you engage with your buyers, you're telling them exactly what the service is, and just helps relate a little bit more between the buyer and the seller to create that personal relationship with them. So now we're on the very, very final stage. Now this is what I mentioned when creating the profile. When you create some specific gigs in certain niches or certain skills, Fiverr may ask you to take a test. So here you can see that they need you to take an SEO skill assessment test. I've already taken it and already passed it. So I can literally hit publish and then my gig goes live. And here we go, we can now see the gig live. So there's the title, we've got level 2 seller. Obviously there's no sales in this, so there's no kind of rating that you usually see here. A nice, clear, concise image with the information. I've not kind of cluttered it up too much. And then the description, it looks really structured. Obviously, I've got a bit of a typo on the bottom. The description here, it looks really well structured. There's a few bold keywords, there's bullet points, there's headings, and it just structures it really well, so it's not too harsh on the eye with big blocks of text that you're having to read. Again, here you can see a little bit about the seller as well. You can also see all the upsells on the gig as well here. So either right here on the screen, or when you click continue and you go through, you'll see all of the upsells as well that buyers can add on when they're going through the gig, along with the FAQs, your related tags, anything else that you sell. And that's the gig in a nutshell. So now we've looked at SEO, and we've also gone through creating your very first gig, looking at the title, description, the tags, the images, and overall crafting the best optimized gig possible on Fiverr. Next, we're going to look at what happens when you get your very first order on Fiverr, how to treat it, what to do, if it's a moment of panic, how do you get through that very first order and ensure that you get your very first 5-star rating. So I'll see you in the next class. Welcome back. What we're going to be looking at now is actually going through what happens when you get your very first order. Now, I've got an example on screen here of a gig that's just been completed and the buyer has marked it as completed. And what I'm going to do is actually take you through and show you what happens when it first comes in, how everything's structured, what it looks like, and how to communicate with the buyer to ensure that you get a 5-star review. And then actually what I'm going to do is a bit of a test, I hope it goes well, is this buyer has left me feedback and it's just awaiting me to leave them feedback. So I'm going to show you that very last part of the process as well, and how the whole thing completes and how you fully end the gig. So here we're on a gig that's just completed. So this was for a YouTube channel banner that I've just created. It was $75. Now this is a great example of how to take a base price and upsell as much as possible. And the art of upselling is huge on Fiverr and can almost double, if not triple, your entire earnings. So as we can see here, this package actually sells for $30 for a standard YouTube banner. But what this particular person has done, they've ordered the source file. So this is the Photoshop file that I used to create the banner, which means that they can change it in future. It's essentially, I guess the way I sell it is the commercial rights to the buyer. They've also added an additional extra, which is spending extra time to add a beautiful, unique, creative design. Now, a lot of buyers on sellers know that time is money on Fiverr. So if you're just paying the basic $5, you're not going to get much for your money. So I allow my buyers the option to just add a little bit more to the order itself, just so I'm more inclined to spend more time on the design to make it that little bit better for them as well. And this actually works really, really well. And buyers do understand that if they're paying the basic price versus paying a little bit more, they're going to get something that's just a little bit higher quality. They've also added a profile photo to go with the banner as well, or to go with the header. And then they've also added an additional logo to go on. So this person has really added a lot of the upsells, and they've turned a $30 order into a $75 order, which is fantastic. And it's a great example of how upselling works. So what we can see here is that when the order comes in, you'll have all the order requirements that we looked at in the last class. So here I ask what their niche is, what the channel URL is, if they want any particular color schemes or images to go onto the design, what the headline or tagline should be, any additional images, and then, for example, if they've got social media handles, anything like that, they can add that to the banner as well. So I also say at the end, because I do get a lot of orders through, just to acknowledge that some people chase sometimes, and I say to them, if I'll be in touch if I have any questions. Otherwise, the next time you'll hear from me is when I'm delivering the first draft of whatever design it is I'm creating for you. So as you go through here, what you can see is that this is my first delivery that I sent to the buyer, and just said, "Hi Natasha, hope you're well. Here it is enclosed." And one real key advice here I would give is make sure you say to the buyer, if there are any problems, please let me know and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, because some buyers have a bad habit of just accepting it and leaving you a 1-star review. What you want to do is just avoid 1-star reviews at all costs. It will affect your search ranking on Fiverr, and it's just not what you want, when other people are looking at the gig. So I would always rather give a refund than get a 1-star review. And then what you can see here is that the buyer asked for a review, for a revision, and I said, yeah, no worries, I'll make a note to make those changes. I re-delivered the gig to them with the new file, and then they can see everything there. And what's happened now is that it's been delivered, they've accepted it, and they've actually left me feedback. So this is what I can see here on the bottom. So Fiverr are a little bit sneaky with this, and when the buyer leaves you feedback, they don't show you what the feedback is until you leave them feedback. So I have had it in the past where actually everything has seemed okay, and I've given the buyer a 5-star review, and I've got a 3-star review back from them. So again, this goes back to the pros and cons of Fiverr. This is a good reason why they favour the buyers. It's a really sneaky tactic against the sellers, I think, and I'm not a massive fan of it. But here we are. So the buyer was really friendly, really nice to work with, and I'm just going to say great to work with. And then this will go on their public profile as well. Publish the review. And then what this means here is, if I just refresh the page, is that it will now show what the buyer has left me. So as we can see here, this is really interesting. So the buyer has actually left 4.3 stars. They've said a 5 out of 5 for communication, a 4 out of 5 services described, and 4 out of 5 buy again or recommend. And the comment they've left is great at communication and did the job well. So a bit of a strange one, and I do get a few of these that come through. A lot of people do leave 5-star reviews, but you do get the odd few who are more than happy, and some people have said, I will happily order from you again, but they give me a 4.7-star review. I don't know why some people do it, they do. This is a great example here. I can then respond to it if I want to. I'm not going to do that on the video, but this now means that this particular order has been completed. And this here is a great example of all the reviews that come through are shown on your profile. So here we've got the one that we just looked at, which is 4.3 stars. We've got a 5-star one there, 5-star, 3.3. I think the problem is with Fiverr that because I do a lot of design work, it's often very subjective. So I do get a few that creep through that are kind of 3s or 4s. It's one of those things with design that not everyone is going to love exactly how you design or how you create your work. But for the majority here, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. It just kind of carries on down like this. So there's majority happy customers. There's a few that kind of give a 3 or a 4. But otherwise, on the whole, everyone's really happy. And it's just making sure that as you deliver your gig, just tell them if you want any revisions, if there's anything that I can do for you, please let me know and let me correct it first before you then leave the review. And that kind of stops all those 1 and 2-star reviews coming through. Next, we're going to be going through custom offers and actually talking with the buyer just before they buy the gig itself and trying to have a conversation and understand their requirements. So I'll see you in the next class. Great, welcome back. So what we're going to be looking at in this class is the conversations that come through from buyers and actually how you create that order. So what we can see here is this particular buyer has messaged me, he's just gone through and he's ready for some thumbnails. This person has actually ordered from me before. Is a really great buyer to work with, always very friendly, always very easy to work with. So he's just sent me through 10 titles for YouTube thumbnails. I was actually on holiday at the time when he first messaged me, so I just said I'm on holiday. I'm actually back that evening that he messaged me, so then I got back. And then what I did is created a custom offer based off what he asked for. So he was asking for 10 thumbnails, no upsells, no extras on the back of it, just a basic 10 thumbnails. So I then sent him through $50 or £40 equivalent, and then just put a 5-day delivery on that. He's then accepted that offer, and then that gets sent through. So he's not gone through the normal search route, and he did when he very first ordered with me. But now he just sends me a direct message, and then all I do is I'd click on this button here, create an offer. And then I'd select the gig, and then you can just type in 10 times thumbnails, for example, offer amount $50 over a 3-day period, and then you can just add on any extras that you want to include in that as well. And then once you submit the offer, that goes to the buyer, and then they can then accept that, and then you can start working on the gig together. Another great tip as well when you're dealing with buyers is I often get a lot of messages through the inbox on Fiverr with people saying, hey, can you design me a thumbnail? Even though my gig is there, it's open, it's waiting for orders, people still feel the need to message me saying, hey, are you still designing thumbnails? So one thing you can actually use is something called a quick response. Now, I use this religiously at the moment. Now, I use this all the time. And whenever people say, can you do this, can you do that, and they just want to check and confirm, it saves me having to type out every single time exactly, yes, that's fine, I can do that. So I actually have some pre-saved quick responses here. So it could be, sure, let's get started. It could be anything from let's go. So this person here said, hey, can you do this? If I then hit let's go, it then adds in all the text really quickly into the message box. And what's really good as well is that there's dynamic name fields as well. So you can actually enter a kind of dynamic field, which then sends it to their username. So I just put, hey, username, how are you? A nice open introduction, very warm and friendly and very personal. And then it says, all sounds good to me. Whenever you're ready, fire up the gig. All I'm trying to do is just get people to order the gig, unless it's a custom request. They're obviously just trying to check that I'm online or working away or still offering gigs. So this is quite common for me, and this is a great way, and it saves me tons of time. Welcome back. In this particular class, I actually want to touch on automation and scaling your Fiverr business. So we've learned lots of things around creating the gig, the SEO, how to rank within search, how to deal with orders, how to deal with new buyers, and dealing with negative feedback. One of the key things is that as you start to grow on Fiverr and as your levels become higher and higher, naturally you're going to see more and more gigs. And one thing I've personally struggled with is automation and scaling. So design is a very manual task, and I have looked at outsourcing it, but I've always found that the quality is just too much of a problem. It's never as good as what I can do when I outsource to other designers. So one thing that you should consider when creating the Fiverr business is how can you automate your gig? So whether that's SEO, whether that's copywriting, or whether it's design, the way I do that from a design perspective is by creating templates and font styles and having a go-to style that is me. And this works really well because my buyers know when they're ordering my gig, they know exactly what they're getting. But it means that I can open up a Photoshop template to start with every single time. And even though every thumbnail ends up custom designed, I'm always starting from the exact same foundation, which means the same subtle border, a same subtle kind of shadow effect around the edge. And actually, I use kind of 3 or 4 layer styles amongst all of my thumbnails, and it always is unique to every single person, but to me it just speeds up rather than having to spend another 20 minutes here creating a layer style or another 30 minutes there creating a background or lighting effect. And it just kind of takes all that away, which means I can focus on the imagery, focus on the wording, and making sure the layout works perfectly on the Fiverr thumbnail. And that's how I've managed to get my gig time down to about 10 minutes per gig. On a really good day with a really simple gig, I can usually create a thumbnail within 5 minutes that the buyer is more than happy with. Sometimes it's a little bit more complex and there's more to design, it takes a little bit more time, but it's definitely something you should be considering as well. If it is copywriting, for example, and let's say you are working on, say, hard-hitting headlines, there are certain ways to structure a headline, and you might already have certain layouts to go. For example, X amount of tips got me this, and then you just kind of fill in the blanks. And that's really how you start to grow the business and spend less and less time per gig working, so that you're not swamped working from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night working on your gig. So bear that in mind as your profile and as your gig starts to grow. How do you automate it? How do you shorten down the time to create the final product, and how do you then start to scale off the back of that? And now in the final lesson, we're going to go into the conclusion and the summary to just recap on everything that we've learned so far in the class, and to make sure that you can start to create your own gig and then also submit that to the class project as well. I'm more than happy to give some comments and give some feedback in the class project as well. So I'll see you in the final lesson. So welcome back to the final lesson and the conclusion of selling on Fiverr. So we've gone through the basics and understanding what Fiverr is. We know that it's now an international marketplace that is 24/7, and the crux of Fiverr is selling your services starting from $5. However, you can price that higher, you can price it with upsells, you can do that in any way, shape or form that you like. We know that it's free to sign up for sellers, and you can get started today in creating your own side hustle. And that because Fiverr is a central platform, they already spend a lot of money on marketing, on SEO, on advertising. So as a business owner or a freelancer, you can cut all of those costs straight away and just focus on entering yourself into a marketplace that already has an active and very, very high amount of buying people in the community. We've learned about the leveling system, starting with seller, and then moving up to a level 1 seller, level 2 seller, and then the final top rated seller, and how that impacts your search visibility, your social proof within Fiverr, and why you want to be aiming for each of those levels as you start to progress your career on Fiverr. We've touched on the pro economics of Fiverr and understanding how much is your time actually worth. So rather than selling, for example, we saw that person selling 5 thumbnails for $5, that's going to take him a lot of time. But now hopefully you've got a grasp on what is your time worth and how do you minimize the time to create and finish a gig to then deliver it versus what you're charging, and is that worth what you feel is your hourly rate? And that's all to ensure that you're making sure that Fiverr is lucrative for you. For me on Fiverr, on a good day, I can make anywhere between $50 to $100 per hour with the orders that I get through, and depending on how fast I work. Obviously, I don't fill all the hours every single week, but when I am working on Fiverr, that's what I'm earning, which is really, really great, and it's a great hourly rate. We've touched on the pros and cons of Fiverr, whether that's rude buyers, whether that's difficult buyers at times, or understanding how Fiverr support works when they favour buyers over sellers, and just understanding how to work with Fiverr customer support, and especially with not putting all your eggs into one basket as well. Fiverr is a fantastic platform, but if you are going to go full time and things work out really well, then just make sure that you have a backup plan in case anything happens with Fiverr. We've gone through how a gig is constructed and how it's all put together, why creating a killer profile is absolutely key, and sprinkling little keywords in there for your niche within the profile, be that in the tagline or in your profile description. And we've touched on the really important part, which is search engine optimization within Fiverr, to look at how you find particular keywords and keyword variations within the Fiverr auto suggest and auto search. Versus then putting that into your gig and sprinkling it within the gig title and within the gig description. We also touched on why tags are really, really important within the gigs on Fiverr as well, to make sure that you appear in as many searches as possible. We then went on to the engagement part of the class and understanding how do you engage those visitors that are there browsing through all the search with a really dynamic and attention-grabbing image on the gig, and also the second and the third images along with live portfolios to really drive people from a search on the search page into an engaged lead on your gig page itself, ready to buy. All of that included setting the price right, the art of upselling, as well as using quick responses and custom offers when people and buyers contact you before actually making an order. And lastly, we touched on one of the most important parts, that as you start to grow and as you start to become more successful on Fiverr, thinking about how you start to scale and automate your own business so that you're not swamped with loads of work, feeling underpaid, because that can happen very easily on Fiverr. It's a very cheap marketplace, and you need to make sure that you're earning the right amount of money for the right amount of time. And if that means being more efficient within your business and within your freelancing career, then Fiverr is definitely the place where efficiency is completely crucial and key. So next, the one thing I want to leave you with is the class project itself. Please don't forget that. What you have to do on the class project is create your first gig, be that on Word or another program. Create your first gig, be that a draft or the final thing, screenshot it and then send it into the class project, and I'm more than happy to have a look through. I'll have a look through, I'll give you some feedback, I'll give you some tips and tricks as well to improve it, and just help you to ensure that you've got the best first gig possible on Fiverr. So I look forward to seeing what you have in the class project, and I'll see you in my other classes.